So users, so user is a record in the users table. So how do you denote the table for the users? Users is a display name, and sys underscore user is the backend table name called system name. So we already understood how the records will be stored in the table. So each row in the table corresponds to a record, right? So now, so we already understood how the user form will look like and what are the various fields present on the user form or user table. Now, so generally how the users are created. Users creation in ServiceNow. So there are various ways users can be created. One is through manual process or manual creation. So manually you can create user records. Second, through XML import. Third, through LDAP integration. LDAP integration. So these are the three ways you can see that users can be created in ServiceNow. What is manual process? Manually you can create the records in the user table. So go to users table. So use type users in the navigation. Under users administration, click on users. So you have a new button here called to create the new users. Click on new to create the new user account, right? So give some ID. So test dot user 10. So this is a user ID I'm giving. So first name test, last name user, title I'm saying test role. Okay, and location you can select some location from the available list. So these are all the locations. Email address, so this way at the rate some dummy email address. Okay, time zone, select some time zone, say GMT. Business phone, give some number. Phone number, give some number. And so likewise you can fill other details. Okay, manager, give some manager for this user. So he's a manager for this user. Save. Right, there's already user ID present with this test user 10, it seems. So let's take some other user. So 101, for example. Just a moment. Refresh. So verify. So it's not created, some problem. So let's recreate. Test dot user 101. So give some first name, last name, right? Right. Add some manager, save. So it is created. So user account is created. Now for this user account, if you want to set password for this user account, you have a button here called set password. Click on this, right? You'll see a dialog window here and click on generate. So password will be generated and you can see the password. So this is, you can check the password. This is to copy the password. Copy the password, then save it. Save the password for this user. See here, as soon as you save the password, this field is checked to true. Password needs reset. Check to true. This means whenever this user logs in for the first time, with the password, he'll be prompted for resetting his password. Okay, so that he can change his password. Getting it? So now you will draft an email to this user, email address with the user ID and the password. You'll communicate user credentials privately to this to this email address so that user can try checking his access. Don't put the username password in the group email addresses anytime. Send the email credentials privately or separately to the user. Do not share them in the group. So this way you can create the users manually. And other is XML import. So for example, so you'll be working on different environments in the project. So dev, QA, UAT, prod. So these are the different environments you'll be working on. So dev is one instance, QA is other instance, UAT is other instance, and production is other instance, right? So for example, in the production, users have been created. Users have been created, and you want to import those newly created user accounts into lower environments, that is dev, QA, and UAT, right? So from the production, you will take the copy of their user accounts, user records, you will import onto the lower environments. So from prod, you will take the export of the user accounts and then you will import them onto the lower environments, right? For example, I'm taking the XML. So on this user account, I want to export this record, right? I want to export the record from prod, right? So similarly, I'm exporting the user record from lab environment. So export XML record. Click on this. So this way I can export the record information in the XML file. Now what I'll do, I'll try to delete this record. I'll try to delete this record. So I'm deleting it. So user account is deleted from the environment. So I want to import the user account through XML. I want to create the user account through XML import. Now I can import this XML. I have a backup. I'll import this XML into the user table. So how do I import? So on this users table list of records, on each column, you have some options here called column options. Click on this, import XML. Click on this. Choose the XML file which we downloaded. Open, upload it. See, account is created, right? So Now record is created through XML import. Everything is same. So this way you can import the records through XML. Other is through LDAP integration. So most of the organizations follow Active Directory integration. So in the organization, there will be some directory called Active Directory. Okay. And wherein which all the users, groups, or any of the locations information, everything is stored in the Active Directory. Now, through Active Directory, other applications will be authenticated within the organization. So your organizations might be using various applications like timesheet or any custom applications, right? Or any office related applications within the office network or any project related applications. All those applications will be authenticated through Active Directory integration. So likewise, ServiceNow also will be integrated to LDAP Active Directory through LDAP integration. Then authentication will happen through Active Directory in the ServiceNow. So now all the user accounts, group accounts, everything is stored in the Active Directory. So whenever there is an integration set up across ServiceNow to the Active Directory, all the data from Active Directory will be copied and then stored locally in the ServiceNow user table like this. So from Active Directory, all these user accounts are copied and then created here. Now, users can log into ServiceNow using these user account credentials, right? So this is an automated process. You need not like create user accounts manually in ServiceNow. So whenever there is a new user account created in Active Directory, automatically through some automatic jobs, right? That trigger in ServiceNow, the user accounts will be automatically created from Active Directory to the ServiceNow. And if there are any changes in the user accounts tomorrow, for example, in the Active Directory, those changes also will be reflected in the ServiceNow users through continuous monitoring. I can say every day there will be changes happening. For example, in the Active Directory, those changes also will be observed and reflected back in the ServiceNow user accounts through this integration. Okay, it's a separate integration concept, LLAP integration. So one of the integrations that most of the organizations will do in order to authenticate the users logging into the applications. And there is also one more process called import sets. Okay, import sets. So you'll have user accounts stored in the Excel sheet. Say, for example, tomorrow new users are joining, right? Or this. Say, for example, after a week, some new employees are joining in the organization and they're part of your project and you want to create their user accounts. So you have to create them manually. That is one process. Other ways, you can have their users data in the Excel sheet. Okay, this way. So each row is nothing but a user account detail. Now what you can do, you can import this user's data into the ServiceNow through some import sets process. So through import sets process, you can import the data from a file into the users table. Okay, you can import the data from users Excel file or any file into the users table through import sets process. We'll talk about it. We have a separate discussion for the import sets. We'll talk there. Any questions? Right. Any questions, guys?
So
Shall we
can't
go
we
for the?
Yeah,
we
yeah.
import
On
the
the
multiple
real-time
users?
project,
Hmm.
yeah, the user can be created in manual, or otherwise you can
integrate from the LAP or otherwise active from other directories like LAP directories or Active Directory.
Active Directory is mostly followed in the real time. And also one more case is XML import is also the major process. So one thing, manually also users will be created in the production. Okay. In the production, the business leaders or the product leaders, what they do is they create newly added users in the production. Okay. So once the users are created manually in the production, so in the lower environments, their user accounts will not be created by the leaders. So developers will be informed, okay, to create or to copy those user accounts into the lower environments. So that time what we will do, we'll take the export of the newly created user accounts in the XML file, and then we'll be importing onto the lower environments. Okay, so that's most commonly uh, followed method for importing records from prod to the lower environments. And sometimes all the environments will be in sync in related to the user accounts through LDAP integration. Some of the projects or some of the organizations will follow LDAP integration. That's also followed. And import sets is also followed in some of the organizations. You will have not for user accounts, but for other table records. So for example, you have some custom tables where there are some thousands of records data, and you want to that thousands of records data is provided in the Excel file. Now from Excel you have to dump that file and create the records in the custom table in ServiceNow. So you can't create them manually, right? So you have to follow a process called import sets process to import all those thousands of records into the target table or custom table. Okay, so user table also could be used to import the data through Excel. So we can have the data in the Excel like this, users data, and you can import this data into the user table. That's also possible, right? Clear?
Yeah, yes, please.
So next we'll go to the groups. So groups, so in the organization, you'll be having various teams, right? So ServiceNow team or audit team, HR team, database team, or any other team, HR payroll team, and internally there could be many teams, right? Administration team. So all those individual teams are called groups. Okay, group is nothing but team. So what does a team generally contain? Team contains team members, right? So group is a record in groups table. Okay, groups table. What's the backend name of the table? Groups table sys underscore user underscore group. Getting it? So this is the table for the groups. So this table will store all the groups information. So I can copy this name, or you can directly type groups here, right? In the navigator. So under user administration, you have groups. Click on this. So these are all the list of groups present in the organization, not in the organization, in my instance. Okay. So each and every row is nothing but a group record. A1 engineering team, team, analytics settings manager, application development. Likewise, these are all individual groups present in my instance. So if you work in the project, go to the groups table and you will see all the teams, okay, part of your organization, right? So what are the properties of a group generally? What are the features of a group? So group contains group members, team contains team members, right? So group also contains group members. So features. Group contains group members, right? Now, all the group members within the group will have similar responsibilities. Okay? All the group members from a group will have similar responsibilities. All the group members of a group will share similar responsibilities. That means, for example, HR group or HR team. So HR team will have some group of HRs. So their responsibilities will almost be similar, right? So they will be having activities or responsibilities related to HR. They will not be doing service no development activity, right? So they'll have their own responsibilities. Similarly, auditing team. Auditing team and the members of the audit team will have auditing related activities. They will not do HR related activities. They will not do service node development related activities. They will do only auditing related responsibilities. All the group members of the audit. Similarly, ServiceNow group, right? You're part of ServiceNow project in your organization and you're part of your group, right? All your group members, all your team members will work on ServiceNow, right? So your team members will not work on HR activities, right? That's not your responsibility. So all your team members will work on ServiceNow development activities. Getting it? So I mean to say that team members of a group will share similar responsibilities. Getting it? Like HR team performs HR activities. Audit team performs auditing activities. ServiceNow team performs ServiceNow related activities. So that's the meaning of second point. Getting it? And one more thing, every team will have team manager, right? So here also every group will have group manager. So every group has group manager who manages the activities on the group. Okay, who manages the group. And one more thing, so every group will contain some group email address. Every group contains group email address. Group email address or distribution list. DL is nothing but distribution list. Right? So what is this group email address? So if you're already working, you might be aware, you might be knowing this. So every team will contain a team email address. And for example, leadership, right? Some president or vice president wants to send some communication to all the teams, right? So send some communication or announcement to all the teams in the organization. What do they generally do? They'll compose an email, right? Announcement email, and they will send it to all the email addresses of the teams. They'll compose the email to all the teams email addresses or groups email addresses. They do not know the individual email address of yours. They will only get to know your team's email address. So they will send email to your team's email address so that you will receive the email or the announcement from the leadership. Getting it? So likewise, every group will have some group email address. So any communication to the group will be done to the group email address, not to the individual user. When it is communicated to the group email address, all the group members will be automatically notified. Getting it? So if somebody is asking you what are the features, so these are the features of a group. Getting it? So let's see the group record. So this is a group record from the groups table, and this is the name of the group, right? So every group will have some meaningful or unique name. So this is a name of the group. Manager. So this user, right, is a manager of this group. Bushrakthar. Likewise, you can change the group manager as well. So you can see, you can click on this lookup icon, and then you can change the user, manager user. Next. So description, you can add the details. What are the responsibilities of this group? You can mention the details here. Getting it? Next. Group email. So you can add the email address of the group. You can check other group. Right. So take this group. So this is a manager, and this is the email address of the group. And as I said, group contains group members, right? So here you see group members related list. So here these are all the group members of this group. Getting it? So likewise, you can add or remove group members from this group. So you have an edit option here. Click on this edit. So when you click on edit, you will be navigated to another screen. So this is called slush bucket. Technically, it is called slush bucket. Slush bucket is nothing but you'll see two buckets here, left and right. So left is containing all the list of users present in the system, right? So these are all the users present in the system. So there are many, but they are not showing here. So all the users present in the system will be listed in the left bucket. Right side bucket is all the users who are added to this group A1 engineering team are listed here. So 5 users are listed here. So these are all the 5 users part of this group. Now you can select users from left, right, to add them onto the right. So select, and then you can use these arrows, add, remove. So you can add it to the right. So from left, you can add it to the right. So that means this user is added as member of this group. Click on save. Click on save. So now see sixth user is added here. Likewise, you can also remove users from the group. So I want to remove this user. So what you can do, again click on edit, and then you can select the user. You can click on remove. So user is removed from the group. Save. So these are the 5 group members of this group. Clear? Nothing much to discuss on the groups. Very simple topic. So most popular questions could be like table name in the certification. Can be asked for the table name. So what is a table name for the group? What is a table name for the user? So you should thoroughly know the table names of the different tables. So next we'll go for the roles. So roles is a record in the roles table. So table name is sys underscore user underscore role. Okay. So this is a table name for the role. So like any other records, user records or group records, a role is also a record in a roles table. So what is this role basically? Roles grant access permissions or privileges to access some object. Okay. Roles grant permissions and privileges to the users to access some object in ServiceNow. Right. So generally, so simple example. So let's go to the first class. So access controls, access controls. So even though I have an admin role here, right? I'm a super user. I contain super roles. Still, I'm not able to edit the ACLs, right? I will not be able to edit the ACLs alone with admin role. What role is required for me to get the edit access onto the ACLs?
Security admin.
Security admin. Security admin role is granting me privilege or permission to edit the ACLs. Getting it? Without that role, I can't edit these ACLs. Simple example. So roles are giving me permissions or privileges to edit this access control. Getting it? Now, one more thing. So in order to have impersonate user option, right, available here, what role is required for a user? Not everybody will have impersonate user option here. I logged in as administrator, so I'm seeing it here. But normal user who logs into the system, okay, this impersonate user will not option will not be shown to that user. Who all can see who all can have impersonate user option here? There's a special role. We already discussed that.
Admin.
No, apart from admin, what role is required to have this option here? So role is impersonator. Okay. So this role is required for a user to have this option here. I logged in as an administrator, but normal user, okay, who doesn't have admin access, like testers, as I said, testers will have this option. How come they will have this access to this option? They will have this role, impersonator role. Their user accounts will have this impersonator role. That's the reason they'll get this option. Most important, remember this. So now this role is giving access to this option. Getting it? So role is giving the getting it. Am I audible? Am I audible? Am I audible, guys?
Yes, sir.
Uh, so did I break anywhere? Is my voice lost in between?
No, no.
Right. So now observe carefully. So as an administrator, I have access to this incident application. Now I'll impersonate to any other user. Say I'll impersonate to ATF user. right? Click on this. Now type incident here in the application navigator. You see, I don't have access to the application, incident application, because I don't have roles. I mean, this user doesn't have roles. ATF user doesn't have roles to access the incident application. So what is the importance of roles here? Roles will grant the permissions and privileges to access the objects in ServiceNow. Is the definition understanding clear? Roles will give you the privileges, permissions to access the objects. So which object you are trying to access? Incident application. But you're not able to because this user doesn't have roles, required roles. Getting it? So there will be various roles in ServiceNow. Okay, so each and every role will have its own importance. So we'll understand different roles and their purpose. Different roles are so specialized administrators. Specialized administrators. So specialized administrators means the users who have admin role. So I have admin role, so I'm a specialized user in the instance. Okay. Application administrators or application specific administrators. Application specific administrators. So we have different applications, right? Incident, problem, change, service catalog, and projects, demands. So these are the different applications. So for each application, there will be an administrator. Overall, I am the administrator because I have admin role. But for each application, again, there will be administrator, incident admin, problem admin, change admin, like that. So application specific administrators. For each application, there will be admin user. Approvers. Approvers. Approvers are the users who approve the request. So I raised some request regarding something. Okay. So the request will go to some approval, to some manager or to some leadership. So the leadership or the manager is called approver because he is approving my request. Getting it? Next. End users. Okay. End users. End users are the business users who doesn't have any technical roles. Okay. In the ServiceNow, they have business related roles. They don't have access to this ServiceNow native instance. They don't have this access to this instance. They'll have access only to the portal, service portal. So there is an end users portal called service portal. So from service portal only they'll be doing their work. Okay, so they are called end users. Next is fulfillers. Sorry. So fulfillers will have one or more than one role, okay, to perform. Say for example, manager, he does have more than one role. Like he'll be managing the things and also he'll be looking into the project as well, right? So he'll have multiple roles too. So any user who has more than one role is called fulfiller. Requesters. So requesters are the users who only have access to request something. Okay, they only have access to request something. So they wanted to raise a request on behalf of other users. So they'll be the right users to raise a request because they have access to request the items or something in the organization. So they just have access to request. They log into the end users portal and then they will raise a request. So these are different role users in the service now. Okay. So they are at high level, but if you talk about low level, there will be different roles. Okay. So go to roles table. Roles. Go to roles table under user administration roles. So these are all the different roles present in the system. Each and every record here is nothing but a role. Okay. So admin is a role. So you can see the description of it. And impersonator is a role. So you can check the description of it. User admin is a role. So user admin is a role. What is the description of it? Can administer users, groups, locations, and companies. So any user with this role can create the user accounts. So we talked about how to create, right? User accounts. So we created manually, but in general, users with this role will be able to create the user accounts manually onto the user table. And also they can create group records. Any user with this role will be able to do this users and groups creation. ITIL. So this ITIL is a role required to work on ITSM related applications like incidents, problems, change request, right? So all these things will be able to do only because of ITIL role. So previously we checked. So I am able to access incident, but ATF user was not able to access incident application because he doesn't have ITIL role. ITIL role is required to access this application. You can check it here. In the application, you have a edit application option here. Click on this. So you see here, there is a role defined here, ITIL. So only this role users will be able to access this application from the application navigator. Users without this role cannot access incident application. ATF user doesn't have ITIL. That's the reason he was not able to access. ITIL admin is the administrator, okay, of ITSM applications. So alone ITIL users can work on the incidents, problems, change request, and other activities on ITSM. But ITIL admin can do all the responsibilities of the ITIL, but also can delete the records on ITIL. Records ITIL can delete the records on incidents, problems, change request. That is done by ITIL admin. ITIL users cannot delete the incidents, problems, or change request, but these users can do. So likewise, security admin. I think definition is not given here. See, the role itself is not visible because it can be deleted. If it is present here, I can delete it. So in order to at most security for this role, security underscore admin, it's not even present here. So it is directly accessible from this elevate privileges option. Okay. So it's not present in the role records as well, though it is a role, because there is a chance that I can delete it because I have admin access, I can delete it. So that will not be the case. That's the reason it's not even shown here.
So these are all the roles related to various applications. Okay. So most important roles that you should be aware of is admin, ITIL, user underscore admin, ITIL underscore admin, impersonator, security underscore admin, right? Incident underscore manager, problem manager, change manager, right? So for each application, there could be different roles. Okay. When you learn that application, you'll get to know the roles about it. But these are most important roles, general roles that you should be aware of. So admin, we already know, is called super user, can do anything. ITL, who manages the ITIL or ITSM related applications, like managing incidents, problems, change requests, etc., etc. This role user cannot delete the records on the ITSM. User admin is a user who can create users or groups. Okay, he is administrator for the users administration. Okay, this role is application specific role. So user with this role will be called as an administrator for the users. ITL admin, this role user can perform responsibilities of ITL, but again, these users can delete the records as well. Whereas this role users cannot delete records. Impersonator can impersonate to other users, but they cannot impersonate to the admin role users. Most important point. Interview point of view, most important questions. Security admin, this role is required to get the access to edit the ACLs. Incident manager, name itself says manager. Okay, he does all the approvals and manage the activities on the incident. Okay, manager of the problem, who manages the activities on the problem. Change manager, who manages the activities on the change request. Getting it? So likewise, there will be various roles for various operations. So when you learn them, you'll get to know about those roles. But the first and the most important point is roles will grant the access and privileges to access some object in ServiceNow. Okay, is that clear, guys? Everybody clear? So now we talked about users, we talked about groups. So how users, groups, and roles are related to each other. Okay, we'll understand that now. So short discussion. So assume you are a new user joining in the organization and you're part of ServiceNow development. So what exactly happens is, first your user account will be created in the system. Okay, say test user. So this is your user account created, test.user. So this is your user account created in the users table. After that, so you're part of ServiceNow team, right? So because your profile is for ServiceNow, you're part of ServiceNow. So what you will be done? Your profile will be, your user account will be added to the ServiceNow development group. Right? So it will be added to the group. Now, name itself says ServiceNow development group. So now ServiceNow development group will require some roles. Will require some roles related to service now. Just a minute. So will require roles related to the service now development. So what this group will be done? This group will be given roles. Okay. Group will be added with specific roles. So since you're part of ServiceNow development group, so you'll be doing development activity in ServiceNow. So what role is required? Basically, admin role is required. So group will be added with specific roles like admin. So admin role will be added to this group. So this group can do the development activity, and group in the sense all the group members. So whenever you add any role to the group, okay, all the group members of that group will inherit the roles. So your user account is added to this group. Now this group has admin role, so you will also get the admin role automatically because you're part of the group. Getting it? So whenever you create a group, whatever the roles that are added to the group, right? So if any user is added to that group, that user will inherit all the group related roles so that he can perform the responsibilities, okay, part of the group. We will not be giving roles directly to the users. You can ask me that question as well. Why are we adding roles to the group? Why not to the user directly? You can also add roles to the users directly. You have the option here. So if you open any user account, you have option here called related list called roles. You can click on edit here. You'll say slush bucket here. And these are all the available roles. Now what I can do, I can search for some role here and then select, add it, save it. I can do that way, but that is not recommended. Adding roles to the user directly is not recommended. Why? I'll tell you. So for example, you're adding roles to the user directly without adding role. I mean, groups are added roles, but explicitly you're adding roles to the user. So in this case, there is a problem. Tomorrow, this user is leaving the project and he is into the other project. Okay. May not be on ServiceNow platform, on different application. So this user will be removed from the project and from the group. So now user is removed from the group. So whatever the roles that were added to this user from this group, those roles will be removed. But the roles which we added directly will still be there with this user. The roles that were there, that were added directly to this user, will still be there with this user, even though he is not part of the group. Getting it? So that time, you have to manually remove the roles for that user. Is it possible? Do you think? So we can't keep monitoring on user accounts. Okay, when is the user leaving the project? And so it requires a lot of manual monitoring. So for single user that is okay, but multiple, there will be many users in the organization. You can't keep monitoring all the user accounts, who is leaving when, right? What are the roles added to that user, right? So removing a user from the group is fine because at a high level we can do that, but removing roles for the user is so we can't monitor the roles added to the user individually, right? So we can't add them and we cannot remove the roles to the user. Okay, that's not a best practice. So always follow practice of adding the users to the groups and add the roles to the groups directly, so that all the use as part of the group will inherit the group related rules. Okay, so we'll continue this point tomorrow. Okay, I'll show you practically how this works, right? So we'll stop it here. Any questions?